First, Vincent is going to tell us about his conversation with the Chief Justice of Kenya. Vincent?
Well, thanks a lot, Dimi. Kenya's general election to select a president, senators, and other officials is set for March. It's the first vote to be held under a new constitution. The implementation of the constitution is viewed as critical for the East African nation. I recently sat down with Kenya's Chief Justice, Willy Mutunga, and he talked about why he wanted to be Chief Justice and the significance of the new constitution.
The first thing was that the rules were changed. The Judicial Service Commission allowed for healthy competition. You know, before the new constitution, the president picked judges, and he didn't have to explain why he had picked those people. They will be sworn in and they will start working. But this time, when that happened, he was resisted, and the consensus was that the Judicial Service Commission should carry out the recruitment. And I thought there was a chance there. That's one. Two, I had fought for decades for a new constitution, and I thought it was only logical and patriotic to be part of its implementation. I knew that the judiciary was going to be pivotal in implementing this new constitution. And I thought this was a great opportunity for me to get there and make sure that it's implemented, because it's a progressive constitution. And if it's implemented, Kenya will be on a great democratic trajectory in all aspects of our society.
Chief Justice, if there's one thing you can highlight which really makes this constitution unique, what is it?
First is the notion of nationhood. Kenya has never been a nation. Now we have a framework for that. Instead of just being a bunch of communities that have no national psyche, a community that doesn't really think that national interest is bigger than all the communities. I think the issue of devolution is very important. We're devolving not only political power, but we're devolving the equitable distribution of resources. There are communities that feel marginalized, they feel they're not part of that country, they feel discriminated against. I also think that Chapter 6 of that Constitution on integrity and leadership is also very critical. It focuses on the kind of leaders that Kenya should have, and the values are very clear. You know, so going forward, the issue of leadership is going to be a calling and not just an opportunistic search for wealth and fame. Because the responsibilities that the Constitution imposes on people. The other thing, obviously, is our progressive Bill of Rights. I think we fought very, very hard for freedom of the press, you know, the right to organize, the right to food, the right to health and environment, the right to sanitation, housing, and whatnot. And we have that now. It's a question of implementation.
Yes.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, it's all about the implementation of this constitution.
That's right.
We've seen the process begin. Where are we, and what are some of the challenges you think you can talk about relating to the implementation of the constitution?
I think the main challenge is that there are two forces that are resisting the implementation of the constitution. Forces of status quo. There are people who think that the imperial presidency was what Kenya needs. And of course, that system benefited some people, including foreigners who would walk to the presidency and get their projects approved without following the due processes of law. So the resistance is real. It's a resistance by powerful people, powerful forces, whether you're talking of drug traffickers, you're talking of pirates, you're talking of small arms dealers, corrupt people, money launderers, and people involved in counterfeit. There is a criminal element there that obviously wants the status quo, you know, maintained. And unfortunately, it's also connected to our political class. And within the judiciary, it's the same thing. I see vested interests in the judiciary that don't want the new reforms. I always say that corrupt people have their vision. We have a vision 2030, but the corrupt people have also vision 2050. And they want probably to have a helicopter by by year 2020 or something else. And once you stop that, you get resisted. It's up to the Kenyans really to fight for the implementation of the constitution.
And we are looking at the elections 2013. March.
Mm-hmm.
Where are we with the constitution? How much of it has been implemented?
Okay, I would say that Parliament has been on schedule, in terms of legislating. The Constitution has timelines that Parliament was supposed to meet, and the Parliament does that. Whether what we get as legislation complies with the Constitution, that's another question. Important thing is that they legislate, and so in terms of statutes, that is on schedule. The implementation of the Constitution in terms of recruiting people is going on. The whole vetting business, which is also pegged to the Constitution, is going on. So I think there's been that will to prepare the infrastructure for the implementation.
Well, tomorrow on In Focus, I'll have part 2 of my conversation with Kenya's Chief Justice, Willy Mutunga, so be sure to tune in.